Long ago, in a world of farms, forests, dusty roads, and busy marketplaces, there lived many clever animals. There were foxes known for their tricks, lions known for their pride, wolves known for their strength. And then there were donkeys. Donkeys were strong, hard-working, and dependable. But in many old stories, they had one special reputation. They could be incredibly stubborn. Today we're going to hear 3 funny tales about donkeys. 3 stories with 3 very different lessons. So sit back, relax, and let's begin. Long ago, in a world of farms, forests, dusty roads, and busy marketplaces, there lived many clever animals. There were foxes known for their tricks, lions known for their pride, wolves known for their strength. And then there were donkeys. Donkeys were strong, hard-working, and dependable. But in many old stories, they had one special reputation. They could be incredibly stubborn. Today we're going to hear 3 funny tales about donkeys. 3 stories with 3 very different lessons. So sit back, relax, and let's begin. Donkey. What lovely music. He listened carefully. Then a thought suddenly popped into his head. Shab donkey. If those little creatures can make such beautiful music, perhaps I can sing too. The donkey imagined himself standing on a stage. He imagined a huge crowd cheering. He imagined people saying, "What a magnificent voice." The donkey smiled. Donkey, yeah, that's what I'll become. A great singer. So the donkey went searching for someone who could teach him how to sing. Before long, he found a little grasshopper sitting on a leaf. Donkey, excuse me, Mr. Grasshopper. Could you teach me to sing? The grasshopper looked at him. Grasshopper, sing? Donkey, yes, I want to sing as beautifully as you do. The grasshopper thought for a moment. Grasshopper, well, you can certainly try. The donkey stood up proudly. He took a deep breath. Then he opened his mouth. Shall you, donkey? Hey-ha! The sound echoed across the meadow. Birds flew from the trees. Rabbits disappeared into their burrows. Even the grasshopper nearly fell off his leaf. The donkey, however, was delighted. A donkey, that was wonderful. Did you hear that? The grasshopper stared at him. Grasshopper, yes. Shh, I certainly heard it. But the donkey wasn't discouraged. He practiced again, and again, and again. Every time his voice sounded just as terrible. But the donkey believed that somewhere in the world there must be a magical way to make him sing beautifully. So he began searching. He travelled over hills. He crossed streams. He wandered through forests. He asked every animal he met if they knew the secret to becoming a wonderful singer. But no magical spring appeared. No enchanted songbook was found. And no matter how hard he practiced, he was still a donkey. One evening, exhausted from his journey, he sat beneath a tree. He thought about everything he had tried. Then he smiled. Donkey, perhaps I don't need to sing like the grasshopper. Perhaps I can simply be the best donkey I can be. And with that, he returned home. He was still not a great singer, but he was still strong. He was still useful, and he was still able to enjoy the beautiful music of the world around him. Narrator, now let's travel to another place. One morning, a father and his young son were walking toward a busy market. They had brought their donkey with them. The donkey walked quietly behind. The father and his son walked along the road. After a while, they met an old traveller. The traveller looked at them. Then he looked at the donkey. Then he shook his head. Traveller, why are you both walking when you have a perfectly good donkey? The father thought about it. Father, perhaps he's right. So the father lifted his son onto the donkey. Now the boy was riding while his father walked beside them. They hadn't gone very far when they met another person. The person looked at the boy. Passerby, what a shame. That young boy is riding while his poor father has to walk. The father stopped. Father, perhaps you're right. So the boy climbed down. The father climbed onto the donkey instead. Now the father was riding and the boy was walking. But soon they heard another voice. Woman, look at that. A grown man riding comfortably while making a little boy walk. The father frowned. Father, oh dear. He looked at his son. Then he looked at the donkey. Father, maybe we should both ride. So the father and son climbed onto the donkey together. For a while everything seemed fine. But then they met another group of travellers. The travellers stared at the poor donkey. Traveller, how cruel! 2 people are sitting on that little donkey. Another traveller agreed. Second traveller, that poor animal. The father became completely confused. He scratched his head. Father, what are we supposed to do? The boy shrugged. What? I don't know, father. The father finally made a decision. Father, fine. We'll carry the donkey. So the father and son climbed down. Together they tried to lift the donkey. The donkey's legs waved in the air. Donkey! Hee-haw! Hee-haw! The father struggled. The boy struggled. And everyone around them stared. What had started as a simple journey to the market had become completely ridiculous. Finally, the father put the donkey back on the ground. He looked at his son. Then he laughed. Father, we've learned something today. Boy, what? The father smiled. Father, no matter what we do, someone will have an opinion. The boy nodded. And together, they continued toward the market, choosing for themselves what seemed sensible and kind. How to reason with a donkey narrator. Our final story is perhaps the funniest of them all. One night, a group of thieves had stolen a large amount of treasure. They had bags filled with valuable objects and coins, and they had loaded everything onto a donkey. The thieves hurried toward the mountains. Thief, come on! We have to get home before sunrise. The donkey walked, step by step, up the mountain. But after a while, the donkey stopped. Thief, come on! The donkey didn't move. Thief, move. The donkey simply stood there. Donkey, hee-haw! The thief pulled on the donkey's rope. Nothing. He pushed. Nothing. He begged. Still nothing. The donkey had made up his mind. He was finished walking. One of the thieves became furious. Thief, why won't this animal move? Another thief stepped forward. Second thief, perhaps we need a different approach. A woman travelling with the thieves had an idea. She found some fresh food and held it in front of the donkey. Woman, here you go, little donkey. The donkey's ears immediately stood up. He smelled the food. Donkey, hee-haw. He happily ate it. The woman smiled proudly. Woman, see? Kindness works. She pointed up the mountain. Woman, now come on. Let's continue. The donkey stared at her. Then he planted his feet firmly on the ground. He wasn't moving. The woman's smile disappeared. Woman, come on. Nothing. Woman, we gave you food. Nothing. Woman, didn't you hear me? The donkey flicked his ears. Donkey, hee-haw. And that was all. The thieves tried everything. They pulled. They pushed. They called. They offered food. They tried to persuade him. But the donkey refused to move. The sky slowly began to brighten. The thieves looked nervously toward the horizon. Thief, sunrise. They suddenly realized they had a much bigger problem. If they stayed there much longer, people might discover them with all their stolen treasure. So they had no choice. They unloaded the treasure from the donkey. Then the thieves picked up the heavy bags themselves. Thief, why didn't we just do this in the first place? The donkey watched them struggle up the mountain. He stood exactly where he had been all along. And, if donkeys could laugh, this one probably would have. Sometimes stubbornness cannot be defeated by arguments. And when someone refuses to listen to reason, continuing to argue may only make the situation worse. Conclusion, narrator. And so our 3 donkey adventures come to an end. The first donkey wanted to become a singer. He learned that it's good to try, but it's also important to appreciate who you are. The second donkey travelled to the market with a father and son. They discovered that trying to satisfy everyone's opinions can lead to complete confusion. And the third donkey, well, he simply refused to move. He reminded us that sometimes the wisest thing to do is stop arguing with someone who has already made up their mind. 3 donkeys, 3 funny adventures, and 3 lessons to remember. So which donkey was your favourite? The singing donkey, the market donkey, or the stubborn donkey? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more classic stories, funny fables, and magical adventures. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.